find out who's going to have breakout performances this weekend. Let's start in Bills-Lions. Who we watch?
Well, listen, this guy's not going to have a breakout performance, Greeny, because he's already had many breakout performances. But you go back to last week, and Josh Allen was absolutely sensational. The way that he played the football game from the pocket, got out of the pocket, used his legs. He did everything. 3 touchdowns on the ground, 3 touchdowns through the air, scored 42 points for his team. And so many of those points were on the shoulders and legs of Josh Allen. He's going to have to do the same thing against the Detroit Lions with some help from his teammates in order to win. And I feel like Josh Allen is going to, again, put himself at the top of that MVP conversation.
Which is where he sits right now. And a sneaky great game this weekend as Packers, Seahawks. Who you watching?
I got to have Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is truly the engine that makes this team go. When you think about all the games that we've seen Jordan Love play well, this offense play well, the physicality of Josh Jacobs, the way that he runs in the goal line, in the red zone, the way that he leads to the play action pass, that's how we get guys like Jaden Reed going. That's how you get guys like Dontavian Wicks going. And we've seen also here with Josh Jacobs, with Matt LaFleur, he's a guy that can catch the ball and make big plays down the field. This starts with Josh Jacobs, not Jordan Love, one of the biggest sneaky pickups of the entire offseason.
What a move that one was. Then finally, the battle for Pennsylvania bragging rights, Steelers-Eagles.
I mean, how can I not say A.J.? And I'm not just saying A.J. because they need to improve in things like passing. I'm saying because if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're going to have to pay attention to the way that Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, Kellen Moore try to get the football to A.J. Brown. And if you have to slide coverage to A.J. Brown, if you have to slide a receiver, play cloud coverage, only have 7 in the box, that'll allow someone like Saquon Barkley to have free reign and have one of those big days that the Pittsburgh Steelers don't normally give up.
So what RC is talking about, of course, is the disharmony that at least perceived to exist in that locker room. Well, the former Eagle legend, Jason Kelce, someone RC knows pretty well, is not at all worried about the locker room chemistry. Listen.
Are they going to be all right? I think they're already all right. There was a lot of reasons why last year, collapsed. Yeah. And I just don't think that we're even in a comparable situation. The reality is they underperformed to their standard. So we saw frustrations mounting and then in a game where you don't live up to the expectations that you hold for yourself and you're frustrated after a game, you see sound bites like that. So I'm not as concerned about it. I actually think it can be a positive, especially if it's channeled in the right direction.
All right, so if there's one thing that you learned from that is that Jason Kelce remains an outstanding team leader despite the fact that he hasn't played for them anymore.
Yeah. Not Brandon Graham.
Right? Yeah, I mean, exactly. He's saying all the right things and he's pointing it all in the right direction, but do we feel like it really is going in the right direction? Do they have issues in Philadelphia that they are just desperately trying to keep from destroying their season or not?
It's always issues, right? And every team has their issues. The problem is they're making their issues public. And that allows other people to weigh in on it, which creates greater distraction. But the real problem is the fact that they're not good at throwing the football, right? And you have a quarterback that I feel is reluctant to take chances with the football, and I feel like he's hurting the team a little bit because he's afraid to have the turnover because of how the season ended last year.
They have a Jalen Hurts problem.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts. I mean, Jalen Hurts right now.
Do you believe they have a Jalen Hurts problem?
To me, no. What I'm saying is to win a Super Bowl, he's going to have to throw the football. I mean, he has 35 sacks already this year, not because they have a bad offensive line. It's because he's burping the baby too much and he's afraid to throw the ball and put it at risk. When you think about A.J. Brown, the fact that A.J. Brown has half the attempts isn't just a Saquon Barkley thing. It's the fact that this guy's risk averse. And much like Alex Smith used to be back in the day. You can win games, you can't win a championship that way.
Graz, your sense of how does the league perceive Jalen Hurts right now?
Yeah, the couple people I've talked to that have either played against him or watched, say the problem is he's not playing on time, and so you're talking about him holding the ball too long, but it was pointed out to me there are plays where he doesn't hold it long enough, where he's too quick through his progressions as opposed to too slow. So just sort of off in terms of the rhythm of the passing game and passing up throws. Like everyone's seen it. There was a deep route to A.J. Brown in the last game that he just didn't take. That probably is a long touchdown if he does. If you want to say, well, they don't have a good relationship anymore, you can point to that. But I doubt he's passing up long touchdown passes just because he's mad at A.J. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So whether it's, either he's sensing pressure that's not there because he's not under pressure, the line is great, or whether they're really drilling into him turnovers. The offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, was recently asked about Jalen Hurts' play, and his answer involved the phrase, only one turnover since bye week. Mm-hmm. So if that's what's being preached, then I think there might be something to what Bart's saying.
Greeny, if Coach Parcells was part of this discussion, he would say winning is a great deodorant. It covers everything that stinks. And as Bart said, every team has something. And oh, by the way, this team's on a 9-game winning streak.
That's the thing.
9 games. And look, their passing game is far from perfect, and they threw 108 yards in a win against Carolina last week. But when Jalen Hurts' A-game, if we just go back 2 years ago, in a heavyweight fight against Patrick Mahomes, if you didn't know anything in that Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts outthrew Patrick Mahomes.
Of course, he did. And we all thought he was on a rocket ship to the moon, and it has leveled off.
But 2 different offensive coordinators since.
Here's the part of this that would concern me, RC, if I'm a fan of this team. It's exactly what Mike T is saying. On a 9-game win streak, these things shouldn't be a problem. Like, everyone should be like, all right, well, look, it's all good. We've won 9 straight games. The trouble rearing its ugly head in a locker room is common on teams that lose 9 straight games. They've won 9 straight games. That suggests something is really going on.
I think what normally happens with losses is you now feel like you didn't achieve a goal. They felt like they didn't achieve a goal against the Carolina Panthers because of the way they perceived that team. But I had an issue when A.J. said it. The first thing I said is I don't want a friend like A.J. Brown. The whole thing about A.J. Brown playing with Jalen Hurts was that it was his childhood best friend.
Massive matchup with the Eagles this weekend. Then they have Baltimore less than a week later, followed up by a home game against the Chiefs on Christmas Day. And we have our Steelers NFL reporter, Brook Pryor, who is here talking Steelers with us this morning. It has been too long since you have been here, by the way. Welcome back. And it's not a coincidence she's wearing her Carolina blue. We'll get to that coming up. But let's start with this. This is a critical stretch for the Steelers season. It also feels like it could be a critical stretch for Russell Wilson's future.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because right now the Steelers do not have a quarterback on their 2025 roster that's currently on the roster right now. Russell Wilson, I think, is playing to determine his future, whether that is in Pittsburgh or somewhere else, because right now he's playing on a very team-friendly deal, right? He's told Hannah Storm he wants to play for 5 to 7 more years. I do not see a world in which the Steelers are ready to commit 5 to 7 more years to Russell Wilson, but hey, maybe 3 years, maybe in the realm of a Baker Mayfield contract, because the way that Russell Wilson is playing right now is the best of his career. He has the lowest interception rate since, I believe, 2019, thanks to Hembo, lowest sack rate since 2021, and his highest rate of explosive plays. 25% of his completions have gone for explosive plays. So if he keeps that up over this stretch, as the Steelers are trying to not only clinch a playoff spot, but also maybe a home playoff game, maybe even a first-round bye, all of those things I think factor into him staying in Pittsburgh in an organization where he's winning and that fits him and he fits the organization.
I'm not going to lie to you. Let me bring the rest of the guys in here as we continue this conversation. If you had told me before the season began, I'm the first to admit when I'm wrong because I have a lot of experience at it. I'm wrong a lot. If you had told me before the season began, the Steelers will re-sign one of the 2 guys they have on their roster, I would have bet you anything you wanted to that it was going to be Justin Fields. Yeah. You are my beloved former Steeler. Yeah. Do you believe Russell Wilson is the future?
I do. And he doesn't have to be the future for the next 5 to 10 years, but I do believe he's the future for the next 2 to 3. The way that Russell Wilson has played has not only re-energized and revived the offense of the Pittsburgh Steelers, but the entire organization. And you can just watch the way that he interacts with Coach Tomlin. I believe that Russell Wilson wants to be a part of the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. But when this team was sitting at 4-2 with Justin Fields, I, like many of us, said we believe that going forward, Justin Fields should be the starter of this team based on what we saw from Russell Wilson the last few years. But we were all wrong, and that's why Coach Tomlin gets paid what he does.
How would you handle this, Mike T?
Yeah, I'd sign him right now. Not in 10 minutes, not next week. It's only going to get more expensive. And let's get Russell Wilson.
Are you giving him one of these big? I mean, the quarterbacks are getting big contracts.
Yeah, $18 to $20 million. You got to pay linebackers.
Is he taking that?
Yeah, because here's why.
Russell Wilson, can't you go out on the open market?
No. As Brook just said, because it fits there, Greeny. And look, he could have made the same amount of money by doing nothing. And this goes to let's win for today and develop for tomorrow. Sign him to a 2 or 3 year bridge contract. Draft his replacement, and let's give Russell Wilson a ton of credit because he has resurrected his career, and Mike Tomlin made what to me was the right decision, not the easy one. Yes. As RC just said, benching Justin Fields, despite being 4-2, took a lot of guts.
Well, let's actually do the game here, or at least do the Steeler situation. Cindy, if you could, when you get a chance, put that 3-game stretch coming up. I keep saying it's one of the toughest 3-game stretches that any team will face, not just this year, but practically any time. And, Brooke, they play it, if I'm not mistaken, like over an 11-day stretch of games at Philadelphia, at Baltimore, and then home against Kansas City. How are they approaching this?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I want to say signing Russell Wilson to a deal right now or tomorrow, that is not the Steeler way. The precedent is that they do not not negotiate contracts in season. So lucky for Russell Wilson, that price keeps going up. But as far as how they're approaching the next 3-game stretch, I mean, RC knows Mike Tomlin. It is tunnel vision. They are on to Philadelphia. They are only focusing on Philadelphia. And then they'll tackle the next teams after that because that's just how they work.
How many of these games are they going to win, Bart? You see those 3 games up on that screen. I know your dislike for the Steelers.
Conflict of interest. Conflict of interest right here.
I know the Ravens have revenge on their minds, and that's probably going to be for the division. I think this week is going to be tough going against the Philadelphia Eagles just simply because of history. When I did a little digging, I think the Steelers have lost 10 in a row in Philadelphia when facing them since 1965, some kind of crazy number. It's going to be tough, but I think if Russell Wilson wants to get that, get that contract, it's going to be based on what he does in these last 3 games to prove that he can put them over the top.
And honestly, like best case scenario, it seems in this situation would be to win 2 of these games against very difficult teams. And I think starting this week, Philadelphia is the most important. The way Brook said that Coach Tomlin is going to be singularly focused on that, I believe that. But this is going to be, to me, the most difficult game to win. The other piece of it is this. I don't believe that Russell Wilson can play his way out of a contract in these 3 games. But I do believe he could solidify a contract that extends his career in Pittsburgh much longer if they go out and play well during this stretch.
I mean, if they beat Baltimore in the middle of that, then they are without question going to win the division. That is certain. If somehow they win these first 2 games, that game against Kansas City, who knows what might feel as though it's at stake at that point. The Steelers are having a stunning season.